In my lifetime, I've ridden a total of 180 different roller coasters, so today I'll be ranking up the top 50. Well, actually, in this video, I will be doing my number 50 coaster to my number 26 coaster. 25 through 1 will be coming out in a later video soon. We have 25 coasters to talk about in this video, so let's just go ahead and hop into it with number 50, the Incredible Hulk coaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure. Going into Universal, I never really had high expectations for this ride. I thought it would just be a standard B&M looping coaster, but it turned out to be a lot more forceful than I expected. The first launch out of the tunnel is amazing, and the inversions that follow are pretty good. You get whipped around for most of the ride, and it really isn't that shaky for the most part. But the thing that weighs this ride down the most is probably the second half, which is kind of boring. It has a few inversions, but it's mainly turns through pretty boring parts of the layout. It definitely exceeded my expectations though and was still a great ride, so I will put it at the number 50 spot. At the number 49 spot is White Lightning at Fun Spot Orlando. At first this GCI looks pretty small, but when you actually ride it, the airtime is very strong in almost every row. It gives good floater on almost every hill, and the ride is pretty intense in some portions, not to mention that its recent retracking makes it very smooth, including that one portion of Titan track. And yes, I'm gonna make a hot take here, but I think it's better than the other Fun Spot wooden coaster, if you know what I'm saying. At the number 48 spot is Rebolton at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. This is one of the most well-rounded launch coasters out there. For starters, you have pretty good launches, and that indoor section is absolutely amazing, including the that will send you into the outdoor section, where you go over the Big Bad Wolf Path and into the brake run. Overall, it's a very elaborate and well-themed ride, and it is very fun. At the number 47 spot is the Boss at Six Flags St. Louis. This is one of the most polarizing coasters out there. Some people think it's rough and pointless, while others people think it's filled with airtime and is a good ride. I'm on the latter half for this ride. I absolutely think it's amazing. The airtime is really good in some spots, and just overall the sense of speed while going through the woods is amazing. At the number 46 spot is Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. What used to be my highest ranked B&M hyper, because it was my only B&M hyper, is now dropped down to my lowest B&M hyper. My recent rides on it haven't been that good. It's delivered okay airtime in most points, and some moments like that upward helix turnaround over the river are just absolutely pointless. They don't give off any force or anything whatsoever, but it's still an amazing ride for what it is. At the number 45 spot is Powder Keg at Silver Dollar City. This ride has the gracefulness of a B&M hyper, while also having a max force style air compressed launch. Now it's obviously not as forceful as that one, but it's still a very good launch to begin with. But this ride has so much floater airtime, and the setting is absolutely gorgeous. At the number 44 spot is Thunderhead at Dollywood. It's crazy to think that this used to be my number 1 coaster, but that was almost 3 years ago, and I really wasn't an enthusiast at that time. Throughout the years, my rides on this have been rougher and rougher. Dollywood is trying their best to smooth this ride out, but since there's just so many rough spots, I can normally only do a few rides before I either get a headache or just tap out due to the roughness. At the number 43 spot is the Beast at Kings Island, another polarizing coaster, and I think of this one more of like the Boss, but just better. The double helix towards the end is absolutely amazing, and the rest of the ride really takes you on a journey through the woods, plus the recent retracking makes it pretty smooth in most sections. Now the ride is surely not the best when it comes to airtime and stuff, but it's definitely a fun ride for sure. At the number 42 spot is Kumba at Busch Gardens Tampa. This is a very intense B&M looping coaster. Now the ride is a little rough, but the intensity definitely makes up for it. You have a very strong vertical loop, combined with a 0G roll and a Cobra roll, and you have a very intense and snappy B&M. At the number 41 spot is Intimidator at Carowinds. This is a very good B&M hyper overall. It has very good airtime due to the staggered seating, which makes the trains longer and allows for more whip over the first drop in airtime hills, but the trims also do kill quite a bit of the airtime that you get. At the number 40 spot is Manta at SeaWorld Orlando. This is a very graceful B&M flying coaster, and that's why I like it so much. Combine that with the amazing setting and the water effects that you go over through the ride and the intense pretzel loop, and you have a very fun and enjoyable coaster. At the number 39 spot is Max Force at Six Flags Great America. This ride definitely has one of the best launches ever, but after that the ride isn't really much, plus it's about the same length as Top Thrill Dragster. The only other good moment going for it is the world's fastest inversion Heartline roll, which is very snappy and gives off quite a bit of laterals. Other than that though, it's just a good ride. At the number 38 spot is Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando. This is probably the sleeper hit out of the new for 2022 coasters, and I think it's an amazing ride. First of all, you have all that airtime on the step up and step downs during the spike and the top hat moments. After the swing launch portion itself, you have plentiful airtime and a few moments of laterals as well. Add that all together and you have an amazing ride. At the number 37 spot is Great Bear at Hershey Park. This is definitely one of the most unique inverted coasters out there. The pre-drop is absolutely weird, but I totally like it as it gives you speed into the amazing drop. And you go down by the Spring Creek, and it's absolutely amazing. You have a vertical loop, an Edelman, and a 0G roll, which all pretty much go over the path before winding around some weird turns over the creek again, before going over a corkscrew near Super Duper's lift hill, before going over random turns yet again into the brake run. What an odd B&M invert. At the number 36 spot is Candemonium at Hershey Park. Going to the other B&M at Hershey Park, we have Candemonium, a B&M Hyper. I think this ride is pretty much Mako at SeaWorld Orlando, but just not as strong in some ways. First of all, you have that same 5-second floater hill that Mako has, and a speed hill, but the second half is pretty much killed by that one trim rake by the Kisses fountain, and that final helix isn't the best. I think the visuals are cool though. At the number 35 spot is Talon at Dorney Park. This is a very good B&M coaster, and it's also very similar to a lot of the other inverts I've ridden. It has a pretty much basic vertical loop, 0G roll, and Edelman, but the second half is a little more unique as it focuses more on tight transitions and low to the ground turns more than inversions. It does have one final snappy corkscrew before going into the brake run though. Overall, a change of pace, but I like it. At the number 34 spot is Orion at Kings Island. This is definitely my least favorite out of the Giga coasters I've ridden, but it's still a great ride nonetheless. I think my main problem with it is the reverse treble clef towards the beginning of the ride after the wave turn. It really kills a lot of the speed for the second half of the ride, although you still have amazing elements in the second half like the Orion's Belt and the speed hill, and the airtime hills into the final brake run. At the number 33 spot is Copperhead Strike at Carowinds. This is a jack-of-all-trades coaster. First of all, you have that amazing JoJo roll out of the station, and overall you have a ton of hang time on the inversions. The launches are a little bit weak, but the rest of the ride well makes up for it with the strong airtime moments, and the comfortable restraints. At the number 32 spot is Banshee at Kings Island. This is a pretty good invert overall. I love the first drop in the back row, as it gives a ton of whip. The next few moments are your standard B&M inversions, but I do like the visuals of the vertical loop being wrapped around the lift hill. After that, you have a very cool pretzel knot, which gives quite a bit of forces at the bottom of it, and an amazing inline twist that gives ton of hang time. At the number 31 spot is Hades 360 at Mount Olympus. This ride has so much potential as a whole. It gives off great airtime in most rows, and there's some pretty good laterals and forces, especially on that corkscrew and island near the parking lot, but this ride is really rough to enjoy. Kicking off the top 30, we have Fahrenheit at Hershey Park. This is pretty much a B&M Looper and a Gerstlauer Eurofighter combined, and I think it's absolutely an amazing ride. The vertical lift and beyond vertical drop are absolutely amazing, and some of the inversions are graceful, but others are just plain forceful like the corkscrews. You also have aggressive moments of airtime towards the end of the ride. At the number 29 spot is Raging Bull at Six Flags Great America. Now I will admit, this is not one of the best layouts on a hypercoaster, but the first drop in the back row is absolutely insane, and some of the airtime moments absolutely whip you in the back row. As well as having a different layout than normal, it just does everything a lot better than most B&M hypers, and that's why it's in my top 30. At the number 28 spot is Prowler at Worlds of Fun. I like to think of this ride as a mini Mystic Timbers. The airtime is absolutely amazing, and as well as being in the back row going over that drop is great as well. You also have that amazing setting through the woods like Mystic Timbers, and night rides on this coaster are absolutely insane. At the number 27 spot is Afterburn at Carowinds. This is one of my upper tier inverted coasters, and it's pure intensity. Now I did notice a slight rattle on one of my last rides, but the ride still makes up for it with some intense transitions, including that bat wing, and an interestingly good airtime hill in the middle of the ride. At the number 26 spot is Raptor at Cedar Point. I think this ride setting is absolutely amazing going over the midway of Cedar Point, and the ride just does everything that Afterburn does, but on a larger scale and better, along with those finale helixes and corkscrews that are very intense. Now that caps off my number 50 through my number 26 coaster. Make sure to look out for the second part of this video for my top 25 on Friday, December 30th. Anyways, this is Zero G Coaster signing out. Have a great rest of your day and see you guys.